What it is, y'all, it is your old boy Pilk, and I'm coming back at you today with more Danmachi, and today we're going to be talking about Familia Royale enemy number 3. Now, I told you guys I was going to try to build teams that weren't requiring the new units. I think I got you a great one today. Well, a good one today. I'm actually still working on the team a bit. I think I can get a much better score out of this team than I've got. But I'll show you the team I'm working on. It is pretty good, not end of the world stuff, but it will definitely do the trick. Now, core to the laboratory. Beast Killer is effective, per usual. Physical attacks. Only does physical attacks, non-elemental. So really, you got to use like breastplates and stuff like that. Whatever your best armor is going to be most effective here. And you do need debuffs. We will talk about that when we get to the team, but you do need debuffs on this. Now, enemy skills. This unit will do an SA on turns 4, 8, and 12, and that SA will remove your buffs. So you've got to kill it before it can do that. Now, the other thing to consider here, on turns 5, 9, and 13, it will also remove all of its debuffs. So if you're going to do a killing blow, you got to do it pretty quickly. And it doesn't do that at the beginning of the turn. It actually does that like middle of the turn. So you got to be really careful about the debuffs. We'll talk about that when we get in there. Self increases strength. Foe singular decreases resistance. It actually hits somebody with a single target attack. That will knock down their endurance. It is an endurance debuff. So, interesting stuff then. Now, checking out the chart down here, this chart actually hasn't been modified. It actually still shows negative going up and positive going down. So, do bear that in mind. Physical resistance is down 50%. Magic is up 50%. So really use physical units. Fire is up 40, earth is up 50, and wind is neutral. Now here's the fun part. Water and thunder are both down 50. So basically use a water or thunder team if you can. Or light is neutral. Physical light teams looking to chew on you. Take the cake here if you want to use an older team. Water and thunder have gotten good buffs recently, but I still maintain, like, unless you really want to go ham on all the new units, you can actually get away with this team, and I'll show you a good one that isn't, it's not groundbreaking, like, it's not gonna break records by any stretch, but it's doing an okay job, okay? So light is neutral and dark is neutral, but dark, wind actually could work, but I think light is a better fit just because of some of the units we've got on there. Now, dark doesn't work because dark just hasn't buffed in a long time, so I wouldn't even worry about that. Says here, your strength and magic buff will be removed at the same time you receive damage with the enemy's SA, cast every 4 turns, 4, 8, 12. Also, they use a skill to remove their debuffs. They do that the turn following. Study their movements and use your skills at the right time. Aim for great damage with Braver Blanc Finn. No, I'm not doing that. Equipped with Beast Killers, though we do have Beast Killer, and Intrepid Gareths. So, let me show you the team I'm actually using here. All right. Now, this team is super handy. I am using the Valentine's Lily. I told you guys not to summon on that, but I really felt like she's a great unit. You could swap her out with really any single target unit you want for this type of team. Magic doesn't do a whole heck of a lot, but we do have a couple magic units that could be respectable candidates for this. But let's go ahead and talk about this real quick. Slot 1. I do have Line and Finn. These units need no representation. You know what they do. They're here for the SA gauge charge. Finn actually has one other thing he does, which we'll talk about here in a moment. Turn 1, they leave and they bring in Artie for a big defensive buff and Osfi for a single target debuff. Now remember, the debuffs and buffs that we're getting down here on the assist side, those never get wiped out. So those will stay in play. So we can actually sack a unit that does that. It'll be just fine. Now, Haruhime then comes in. The OG Haruhime comes in turn 3 with Seer that actually does a big magic and a big light damage buff. That's just going to buff everybody else. It's going to give Haruhime a little something to do. But remember, she's not end of the world stuff. But that little tiny bit of extra damage might help. Maybe. Because we are going to be using her attack skill frequently enough. Now, slot 2, Light Haruhime should need no introduction. She's got a good buff, she's got a single target debuff, and she's got a pretty good single target attack, plus she'll do 80% light damage, which is going to be one of the things that we're going to use to buff our girl Anya. Now, slot 3. Valentine's Lily. Now, Valentine's Lily would be a lot better if I had her maxed out. I don't. I do have the bonds to do it, and I've been in debate about whether I wanted to do that here. I will tell you, with this team, I've gotten 24-ish mil on turn 12 or turn 11, depending upon how we wind this out. I am still working on the build for this. If I max her out, I'm pretty sure I could drop that down at least a turn or two. So while I said this isn't end-of-the-world stuff, it is a good team that will get the job done. Obviously, attached to her, I have the, I keep wanting to call him Apollo, Ares, that will debuff physical attack, and that's because, remember, Finn actually has attached to him a strength and magic buff as well. So she's only got a 10% magic buff, but that should be more than enough. Getting that debuff out is just really going to help Anya do her thing. Now, Anya, this is really important. Attached to her, I have Erebus. Erebus does a 20% strength and magic buff, and he's going to go ahead and debuff light. So that's going to be really, really, really important, because most of our buff here actually comes from magic. That does kind of defeat Lily ever so slightly, but she's only down really maximum 10% on her strength stats, so it's not the end of the world, and she's not essaying, so really, as long as we get her counters off, we should be okay. She could do better damage, but I really don't have a way to build that into this stack without taking away some of the stuff that makes Haruhime slightly effective. It might be an option, wink wink, hint hint, but I actually haven't built this out yet to do that, so I've got to figure out where I'm going to go with that. Now, for the moment, this is my build, and it's a good build. It does a decent job. Let's go ahead and run in here and talk about each turn and what they're doing, because I actually have a pretty good skill flow now, and I feel pretty confident that when I just, generally do the run, it's going to result in some okay numbers. Not end-of-the-world stuff, but okay numbers. Spotlight, SA gauge charge, and everybody else does a big buff debuff stack. Now, there is one interesting decision you have to make here on turn 4, and we'll talk about it. Okay, turn 2, Artie comes in. She's going to do her defensive buff. Everybody else is going to do their main debuff, or in the case of Lily, her buff. Basically, it's just everybody does 1, 2, 3. Not end of the world stuff, pretty straightforward. Now, when Haruhime comes in, I have her using Akane. Don't be afraid, because if you actually look at the turn order, Lily will be running out of some of all this other stuff. Light attributes going away, strength is going away, but remember, her skill 3 gives her light attack status buff plus 2 turns. So, she's not going to run out. She'll be fine. So you can safely do Akane here. Everybody else is good turns 2 through 3, no matter what they've got going on. It is 3 right now. It's normally 2. I think Line got Line must have gotten a counter off or something if they're that high. Neither here nor there. You're fine. You want to do Akane, because if you don't, odds are pretty good you're going to die, because he hits hard. Now, one thing I do want to mention, turn 2 is interesting with these units, because turn 2 you have to remove the strength and magic, or the strength buff itself. There's no magic buff, but you do have to remove the strength buff. Haruhime's skill 2 does remove strength and magic buffs, but I've had situations where it actually goes off before he attacks. So you have to be a little bit careful with agility there, keep an eye on it, and if your agility is a little bit too high, consider using a different assist. Just warning you of that. You do need to remove that buff on turn 2. I didn't talk about that there, but it is very, very important. Now, turn 4. Normally in turn 4, you would just continue doing the skill 3 with Lily here. If you're using this Lily, consider using skill 1, only because if you notice here with her skills, she has 1 turn left of Pink Sweets. So after this turn, it'd be gone, and that's her extra attack. Now, you could rebuff Pink Sweets here. It's a debuff, and on the next turn, you're going to have to rebuff anyway, and re-debuff anyway. So if you do Pink Sweets here, you're actually going to get the extra attack out. So, for my money, I like getting the 2 turns of extra attack. I think it actually equates to more damage than she would get with her skill 3. Could be wrong there, but it hasn't changed the numbers too much. I just find that a slightly better option. Everybody else just does their single target, highest level, and you're good. And of course, Haruhime's using Yosuga, so you got, buff replication, debuff replication. Debuff replication is pretty important on that turn, because the debuffs do wear out if you don't. Not that it's a huge deal, but since you're buffing this turn, you need a debuff next turn. Alright. This shouldn't hurt at all. And it doesn't. Triple digit damage there is nothing. Alright. So this is the buff turn. So I'm going to go ahead and do Sheikah here. That's going to get the buffs out. Everybody's doing skill 1 with the exception of Lily, who's also doing skill 2. So technically you're doing 1, 2, 1. Sorry. 2, 1, 2, 1. Because remember, Lily's buff is her skill 2. That's kind of why we did Pink Sweets last turn. Now, the foe here is going to remove all the debuffs here in just a moment. Good counters there. Good counters. You want a lot of counters? There they go. Now they're gone. So with the debuffs gone now on this turn, you're going to go ahead and debuff. So we're going to do Akane. We're going to do Cicada Shell. Remember, that is a single target debuff. We'll also remove Strength and Magic buffs. We need to keep an eye on that. And Pink Sweets is going to be a 40% light debuff with a guard rate debuff. And then, of course, the physical resistance debuff here as well. So keep that in mind. Basically, turn 5 is a buff turn. Turn 6 is a debuff turn. Pretty straightforward stuff. The next 2 turns are just damage. Raw, unadulterated damage. And if you're keeping track, that does mean Lily basically rebuffed her extra attacks, but that's fine. She's actually now in cycle, and you can go 4 turns before you have to rebuff it. It's pretty straightforward stuff. We are working our way up to a triple SA. He hasn't quite halfway down. He's got, I believe 22,000, or I'm sorry, 22 million health, and we're down to 14.5 million, so we're going to have to go a little further. So we're just going to do everybody's third skill here. And that's going to obviously do the buff replication with Haruhime, debuff replication as well, and everybody else is getting their big hit off. There we go. Also, Haruhime's healing, which is arguably the more important part of that. Now, it's really tempting to do your SA here. And I actually have a build in mind where I might be able to get a triple on turn 7. But man, if we got to get a lot more damage out to do that. Don't do your SA here because your big SAs are all buffs. They're all buffs. So if you do them on this turn, essentially you're just kind of wasting that turn. The buffs will actually occur next turn. The only downside is I believe Anya's is actually a debuff, but it's like 5% more than we get already. So save your SA on this turn. Do your triple attacks and save your SA. It's super, super, super important. There we go. Basically right here, you're literally just wearing him down. Now, he is going to remove everybody's buff on this turn. The downside of that is it's going to affect the Light Haruhime in a very negative fashion. But Light Haruhime is never going to do crazy things with her SA anyway. So really just using her for really her buff skill on this. And that's why I say Light Haruhime is a questionable choice here, but she gets the job done. So we're going to SA with the 2 Haruhimes and with Anya. Now, we will need to rebuff, but remember, everybody's buff skill, or everybody's SA is a buff skill with the exception of Anya, who does, actually no, hers is a buff skill as well. Hers is a buff skill as well. I thought she did a single target debuff. I'm thinking of someone else. So yeah, it doesn't really hurt to do hers there. Now, the only downside is because we're not getting a light damage buff until after the SA goes off, you can't expect really great things out of the light Haruhime here. So don't get too flustered if she's kind of garbage. It is what it is. I think she does I think I've seen 1.1 out of her, but I think that was a different run. I think we're still buffed on that run. I'm expecting 3/4 mil, something like that. It's not going to be phenomenal. Not end of the world, but definitely not phenomenal. There's an argument to maybe wait for next turn, but I really feel like you've got to take advantage of this while all the buff skills are on. You could then, if you don't do it this turn, you could wait till turn 11 and do it. You can actually do a quad at that point, but Lily's SA is so abysmal, I think it's more worthwhile to just hit them here with a big hit and then worry about it later. You can make decisions. Like I said, Lily's not maxed. So I am actually working on a bigger hit here. I'm hoping this one gets close. I've seen up to 4.9. I've never seen a 5 mil out of her. But I really hope we see something really good here. Let's see what we get. Ah, come on. 439 is about average, honestly. I was hoping for much better than that. Because remember, that is actually a big decision maker in your final score. Your final score is going to be impacted by that by a huge margin. So let's go ahead and do all of our debuffs on this turn. And this will probably be a turn 11 kill. Because he's got enough health left over. I don't think we're going to get much more out of this one. You do have to do the debuffs here. There is some argument for just doing all the attacks. But remember, your counters are going to be affected by that. So do your debuffs. Suck it up for one turn. I'm going to go ahead and do Anya's SA one more time. And if that doesn't kill him, then something else will. But remember, your score is equated by what turn you kill on and what your biggest hit is. So we got a 439 as our biggest hit. We're going to have a turn 11 finish. I hope, fingers crossed, we should. I don't see any reason why not. But like I said, I am working. Ooh, that was really good. Damn. I was not expecting a hit like that. Girl. Or is that power all solo? Alright. So 24 mil. Not the biggest, not the best, not the baddest, but it gets the job done. So hopefully you've got a good idea of how to equate this. If you want to see, oh, I didn't, whatever. I can't do it now. I fat fingered it. But basically, the turn you finish on gives you a solid number and a percentage bonus. And then whatever your biggest hit is, in my case, 4.39 mil, is going to give you, is basically going to add into that. And that's going to be your final number. So that makes it 24 mil for me, 24.0. I have better out there. I'm going to keep running this, guys. Let me know what you thought in the comments section down below. Like, comment, share. I'm going to be back at you guys with more Danmachi here really soon.